Hey guys, here we are again. It is the middle of April, but even though everything was melting for about 2 weeks straight a couple weeks ago, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but Canada gave us second winter again, as it usually does every year. But that will give us a good chance here to drive the Miata through some snow, see what that's like. Quick refresher, but this is a 2008 third generation NC Miata. We have just over 60,000 kilometers on this still haven't driven it all that much. I try to avoid driving it in bad weather because we do have other cars, but you know, what better day is there to make a video? Unfortunately, it's gonna have to go through the pains of the conditions for today. If you want a more thorough look at a tour and review of this Miata, check out my first video I posted. Today is going to be all about the snow drive. Let's hop outside and have a look at what these conditions are like today. There's the wind blowing my door wide open. And yeah, quite a bit of snow. The snow was almost done being completely melted a few weeks ago, but it is back again. Quick refresher, we are on some Goodyear Winter Command tires here in 205/55 16s, slightly bigger than the stock matching size, which would have been 205/50 16s, just to give us an extra little bit of ground clearance. I was able to pick up those tires the morning before I bought this car. They're a used set of tires, but they're only a year old, as also proven by the date stamp on the sidewalls. Yeah, just get a look at how much snow we are dealing with here. Some places have a bit more, some a bit less. But yeah, go for a drive in the snow, see what the Miata's like in these winter conditions. Yeah, we are in a pretty deep spot here in terms of where we're parked with how high the snow is. I'm guessing the snow probably isn't quite as dramatic on camera as it is in person, but trust me when I say getting a pretty big snowstorm today and yesterday. But anyway, let's get out of this parking spot here and get on our way. Traction control off. Have to spin our way out a little bit, but we are off. Honestly, I think as long as you have a good set of winter tires, you'll do okay. Sometimes the ground clearance might bite you, but a good set of winter tires and a little bit of skill should be able to get you where you need to go. Just get across here. And not bad. Bit of snow to fight with. But again, we're doing okay. Parking lot here where the snow is quite deep. Found a small section here that's been plowed a little bit. Always make sure there's no one around before you start having fun. Don't be an idiot and crash into anyone else. But sliding around in the snow is always fun. There's deep snow around and it's safe to do so. Always want to keep your momentum. Don't want to stop somewhere deep and then get stuck. The main streets are usually cleared pretty quickly, so let's stick to these residential streets here. Can play around in the snow for a little bit. Things about this car all the time, not just in winter, is that it's so controllable. But with the proper set of tires, that carries over to the winter as well. Even if things start getting slidey or sideways, very easy to correct. The car tells you what's going on. Steering tells you what's going on. Really not that bad of a winter driver. Things I did mention briefly in the last video is that it is great that there's a physical button here to turn traction control off. So one thing you don't have though is to be able to turn off traction and stability control off separately. I find that the traction control system in this car is a little bit too intrusive in certain winter situations, but it would be nice to have that option to have the traction off but keep your stability control on, just to save you if you go in a little too hot. Because of that traction control situation, once we get onto the main roads, you may see me doing this weird kind of dance where we're constantly turning the traction control on and off, turning it off to get out of a stop, and then turning it back on once we're up to speed, and then repeating over and over. Obviously, all-wheel drive is the easier option in the winter, but if you want to have a little bit of fun, with proper tires, a rear-wheel drive car can do it. You just have to be the kind of person who thinks the idea of driving through snow and sliding around is a fun thing to do. You have to be more involved with the driving experience. You have to be paying more attention. For me, this is more fun though. I got out of a Volkswagen Golf R, which was all-wheel drive. Though it was occasionally fun to do some snow donuts in that as well, it was often a little too easy. Kind of like the challenge of this. Putting winter tires on your sports car, whether it's a Miata or whatever else, means the fun continues all year round. Winter is what scares you away from buying a rear-wheel drive car. I don't think you need to let it. On the right set of tires, there is no reason you can't get around all year. At least where I live, it's really only rough in the residential areas that don't get cleared right away. Once you get onto these main roads, snow is usually pretty minimal. One of the other fun quirks for me driving in the winter too is you're often behind people in crossovers who think that because they have all-wheel drive they don't need winter tires, but then they're all going way under the speed limit because they don't trust the grip levels or the braking distances of their cars. And so there's you in your little sports cars zooming by them. They think you're crazy, but really, you know something they don't. I've always found it extremely strange that living somewhere like this, where we get snow in the winter, where there's potential for stuff like this, a lot of people have never tried winter tires. They don't think they need them. Honestly, once you've had a set, you can never go back. I would drive this car with winter tires on it over an SUV with all seasons any day. Once we're on the main roads, absolutely no problems. But we'll head back into some more challenging situations over here. Just turn our traction control back off there. Yeah, like I said, that traction control kicks in a little too early. Stops you from being able to accelerate with any kind of pace. More important than accelerating in the winter, though, stopping. Again, winter tires. If you have the confidence to stop, you can cruise at a pace much higher than those in their all seasons or summer tires, regardless of what kind of vehicle they're in. I cannot emphasize that enough. How helpful winter tires are. I don't care if it's front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. You want to be able to stop. And for whatever reason, a lot of people don't understand that, even here. They think, oh, I have all-wheel drive, I can get out of anything. That's true. But you want to be able to stop and not hit anything, or steer and not hit anything. You want more grip. At the end of the day, more grip is never a bad thing. So why not have the proper tires for the proper situation? I'll try to not make the rest of this video a full-on rant about people without winter tires, but it just seems so silly to me that there are people in SUVs always going way slower than I am in my tiny Miata. And it's because they just don't have the confidence that I have on the right set of tires. This corner is quite icy. Try and get into a snow patch there so we can get a bit of traction. There we go. Yeah, getting started like that, obviously more so a rear-wheel drive problem than a tire problem. Icy corners like that, you're just gonna have to learn to be patient, learn to modulate the throttle. You might not get going very quickly, but you can get up to speed. Bit of ABS kicking in there, but again, stopping distances are pretty good. With this car only being 2,500 pounds, that actually probably helps the braking distances a bit too, combined with the tires. Don't have as much weight to stop. Means you can stop shorter. And that's going to be true in the winter or in the summer. Make sure they're not crossing the street there. Some wheel slippage there. But we're out of it. Miatas are just so controllable. You can steer with the front wheels, you can steer with the back wheels, or any combination of both. Very easy to get a slide started, but also just as easy to get out of one when you need to. Car just does whatever you ask, even in the winter. Another thing I've always loved about two-wheel drive vehicles in the winter is it doesn't mask the conditions outside the way all-wheel drive does sometimes. With all-wheel drive, you can pretty much start from anywhere from a stop, and the all-wheel drive system will distribute the power whichever way it needs to go, and you don't really notice it when you're accelerating. Whereas with a two-wheel drive car, if it's icy out, you'll get some wheels spinning, it'll be harder to get the traction down, and it just gives you a better gauge. And it just gives you a better gauge of what kind of grip levels we have on the street. Situations like that, I know my tires are spinning everywhere, and so then I know it's a little bit icy in this area. All-wheel drive cars can sometimes make you a little bit too comfortable, a little overconfident. Some very deep snow there, and a bit of an uphill. Slipping and sliding, and then you hit a main road that's been cleared and everything's back to normal. Yeah, if you're willing to live with a bit of the struggle of getting out of your own neighborhood, once you hit main routes, at least where I live here, you're pretty much problem free after that. Even if the snow plows haven't been out yet, usually just having enough people drive on these roads clears it out. Leaves some tire tracks to get through so that the snow's not as deep. A little bit of deep stuff here. Rear-wheel drive isn't really what's going to hurt you. Occasionally you'll have some ground clearance issues, a little bit of scraping. These Miatas have about the same ground clearance as a lot of normal sedans. So aside from having to manage the traction with the rear-wheel drive, you're not really set up any worse than someone who's in like a Camry or a Civic or anything like that. Big bump of snow there. not sure if it's coming through on camera, but the snow that we're on here is actually pretty deep. But we're getting through it okay. Just have to take your time. Again, be conscious of your grip levels. Pay attention to what you're doing while you're out here in these kind of conditions. True of any car, but especially in a rear-wheel drive car where you might slide around. Deep snow at this corner here. No one's around. School is canceled today. Is fun you can't have with something. There are certain levels of fun here that you just can't have in something that isn't a sports car. Very deep stuff here. Yeah, doing little mini drifts around corners. Again, so long as it's safe, you got to make sure there's absolutely no one anywhere near you before you start doing stuff like that. Deep snow here, but again, a little bit of patience. Just a little tiny bit of wheel spin to get you out of there. Turn traction control back on here, see if we can get a good example of how much power it cuts. Into some really big snow drifts. I'm gonna have to hope this truck is nice enough to let me by, because there's no way I'm pulling over into that snow that is like over a foot deep. I had no idea that road was gonna be like that. That was probably the worst place we could have gone. But luckily we've made it to some clear roads on a main route here. If we were to try and start from a stop with traction control active, yeah, just cutting all the power. We still move, just prefer to have that extra control. Sometimes a tiny bit of wheel spin is the answer. And even if you get a little more sideways than you were intending to, it's very easy to save it. Some pretty rough stuff to get over here. But we shred through it just fine. Got enough grip on these winter tires that we can change directions, kind of saw our way through the softer bits and find the traction. Yeah, this is about the worst 24-hour snowfall we've had in a while. But me and the Miata are getting through it just fine. Gotta be careful, sometimes the ruts will throw you sideways. Just have to be active and paying attention. Car is just super controlled, super communicative. It's very forgiving, this car. It's the right way to put it, I think. Even if the ruts are crazy and it sends you sideways, very easy to just put some power and some counter steer in, straighten you back out. Almost got stuck there. I don't think the question here is, can you do it? You can. Really, the question is, should you? And I think that really is up to each person. There's a lot of compromises you have to make. Very involved experience. It's the more difficult experience for sure. Obviously it can be done, but even I myself bought this car knowing that I have other options to get through the winter. Really try to not drive this during the winter as much as possible, but every once in a while you gotta take it out and have some fun. But yeah, there's a big camp of people out there who say you can't drive rear-wheel drive in the snow, or you have to have all-wheel drive. I am firmly against that camp. Of course it's easier. I won't pretend like it isn't. But to say that you can't drive through the winter with two-wheel drive is a bit of a lie. And sure, there might be a day per year where I'm gonna get stuck and someone in an SUV can just get going anywhere. But through all of the other days of winter, you can be the one having fun, still driving your sports car. And I think that's the main takeaway here. Got someone in front of me with a 4Runner, and I love 4Runners. A Miata and a 4Runner might be the perfect two-car garage for me. But we already own a Mazda CX-5. Don't feel the need to have two vehicles that sit up high. Though obviously the 4Runner is a body-on-frame truck-style SUV. CX-5 is just a crossover. I like having a bigger difference between the two vehicles, one that sits low, one that sits high. Gotta be a little patient and make sure you have enough of a gap. With this car having such a short wheelbase, it does sometimes jitter you around a little bit. Can't quite go the speed limit on these roads comfortably, I'd say. But the grip is still there, the confidence is still there. As long as you, again, drive to conditions, slow down for the corner if it's a little crazy like that. once you get onto a clear road, not too much to worry about. It's a little harder to heel-toe downshift though, in a pair of boots that you'll probably be wearing when there's this much snow out. Pedal box is quite tight, and I'm sure I owe part of this car control to the Miata itself, just being such a lightweight and balanced partner. Even for someone like me who's never driven rear-wheel drive in the winter before, really not that difficult once you get used to it a little bit. How about I just shut up for a little bit and do some mini drifting and have some fun here.